Everyone, and welcome to the ARTCAST. This is the 10th episode of our 12-part series. It's a limited podcast covering the landmark games, players, and coaches from Dr. Arthur C. Bartner's 5 decades, crazy 50 years as a director of the Trojan Marching Band and the discussion of the band's traditions. We got some good ones for you today. If you want to check out video of some of the older versions of this, you can check out the YouTube page or the Facebook page for the Trojan Marching Band, or go to anywhere podcasts are. Just look for the ARTCAST. And you'll find us. We're in double digits now, Dr. Bartner, our 10th episode. Crazy.
All right. Yeah, it's gone by pretty fast.
It's gone by quickly. And now we've actually had some football. Before we get into, our traditional show, we got some good stuff with the sanction years and also some of the world exploits of the Trojan Marching Band. But the Arizona State game, the first time at a home game, I'm sure the band hasn't been there 50 years since you've been there, but you guys did a virtual halftime. What was that like? Kind of performing virtually.
Yeah, it's tough because you really want to be there in person to root our team on the victory. But we the band approached it that we're playing fight on after touchdowns, and we're doing our thing, our drum cadences, and so we're there in spirit. And then we decided, at halftime, we'll put on a little 8-minute show, because the other option is to listen to the talking heads, revisit, the first half. So we did 3 tunes at halftime. Of course, we did Tusk and Fight On, and, played some new music. So it was fun. And then at the end of the game, virtually, we still played Conquest and celebrated, even though we weren't there in person, we tried to recreate that atmosphere of home field advantage.
What was the feedback from some of the band members? Did you get any feedback from those guys?
Well, yeah, I think the guys had a good time. They had a good time. And, for our freshmen, this was really their first game. So it was kind of an education thing. Well, we do this on first down. We do this on second down. We play charge on third down. Tribute to Troy after a good stop. Another one bites the dust after a sack, So it was kind of an educational thing for our young musicians.
Any difference? So USC goes to Arizona this weekend. Hopefully, we're seeing games get canceled all over the place. Not in the Pac-12 as of now, but what's the plan for the Arizona game?
Yes, this would have been, in a normal year, the sophomore trip. Okay. So, which means only the sophomores would have gone. So we're kind of saluting our sophomore class. They get to pick the music at halftime. In the windows, we'll kind of show pictures of the sophomore, and but the whole band will be there to watch the game, and hopefully it will not be as difficult as the last game.
It was crazy. Yeah, it'd be funny if we could do some recaps of the current games. But yeah, that was a nutty one. We'll see what happens this weekend in Tucson. But we're going to talk about another nutty game this week, and it's going back to the sanction year. So when Lane Kiffin took over, 2011, Matt Barkley, some really good, some stars on those teams. So if you remember, Pete Carroll left in January of 2010, and then Kiffin was hired the next day. He spent 1 year at Tennessee, and then he came back to USC. So the sanctions hit in the middle of that year in 2010. 2-year postseason ban, the scholarship restrictions, and if you remember, USC kind of struggled 8-5 in 2010. Not terrible for Lane Kiffin's first year, but the roster was pretty stacked. You got guys like Barkley, Matt Khalil, the first round left tackle draft pick Robert Woods and Marquise Lee were just all over the place. You had T.J. McDonald, who's in the NFL, Nick Perry, Nikel Roby, now he's Roby Coleman, and Devon Kennard on the defensive side of the ball, and started out 8-2 that year in 2011, Dr. Bartner. If you remember that, there was a win over Notre Dame. That was a big one. There was a 3 overtime loss to Stanford. And then going up to Austin Stadium. So number 18 USC, number 4 Oregon. That was on November 19th in 2011, and 22-game win streak in Austin Stadium. Oregon was 9-1. They'd just gone to the championship game, the BCS championship game, and they were trying to go back again. If you remember, Chip Kelly had that blur offense that was absolutely crazy. They're not running it now, but whatever reason, they was running it then, and it was great. They averaged 428 yards and 46 points a game in 2011. What do you recall? We got some highlights coming up, but what do you recall from that trip up to Eugene?
Well, I will tell you that that stadium is the most intimidating stadium that I have been in. I mean, it is the loudest. They've got this duck running around all over the place. He comes in on a motorcycle. I mean, those fans are rabid. They just don't sit down and they don't stop yelling the entire game. And now the amount of seats we had one sliver in the corner of the end zone, and the band was at the bottom of that sliver. The football parents were above us, and then we had some fans there, very small USC representatives, and the experience of winning a game, in that environment was just awesome. I mean, it was just awesome. And to have 45, 50,000 people, you could hear a pin drop when they missed that field goal. It was just like an unbelievable moment. So, it was just nobody expected that we would win that game.
Yeah, and then LeBron James was there, Dwayne Wade, Carmelo Anthony, and Chris Paul. They were all on the sidelines. It was 40 degrees, and we'll show you in the video, but like Lane Kiffin was all bundled up, and we felt that was like a recruiting thing back then where he was showing everyone, hey, you want to come to Oregon? It's freaking cold here. So I think that was pretty smart on Lane's part.
Yes, I think they were playing the Portland Trail Blazers the next day or something. And it was interesting, they were staying in the hotel that I was staying in at Portland. So, it's one of those small boutique hotels. And, I was up early and going out for coffee, and LeBron James is in the lobby. And I'm going, I was more, I didn't ask him for an autograph or anything. I was just like, what are you doing in my hotel? I was speechless, literally speechless. So, they made a big deal out of that on the sidelines, and we had everything going against us. And I remember Lane very well. He had a beanie on, and he looked like a Southern California kid who was freezing to death.
Yeah.
So it was like, sent the wrong message, I guess, to the team. I don't know, but they played great that first half. I mean, they're just all world that first half.
Yeah, sometimes players want to act macho. They don't wear sleeves and stuff. The coach, I think Lane really wanted to show how cold it was. So the recruits would be like, yeah, maybe I'll just go end up at USC and not Oregon. But if you remember, I mean, USC came out, we'll show you the highlight. I'll show the highlights in a second, and then we'll get your thoughts on it. But came out like gangbusters. Oregon only had one touchdown before the halftime, and Marquise Lee had 187 receiving yards. It was 38-14 at one point, and then Oregon comes storming back. Mark Tyler ended up fumbling going in. And Oregon gets a field goal try, and USC commits a penalty, and they get a closer field goal try, and all this stuff. So let me play the highlights for you, then we'll get your thoughts, Dr. Bartner.
Play action out of a power formation. Down the middle, Lee's got it! Touchdown, USC! What a great catch on play action out of a power formation. Oregon's 12-yard line. Going to show the fade to Woods. Woods in the corner, grabs it. It's battle, tug of war. Touchdown is the signal. He goes to the right side as a receiver. Barkley pump fake goes far side. Caught. It's Lee again. Breaks to the 6-yard line. Rolling right. Barkley throws. Touchdown USC. Woods, his second of the game. Lee on the right side of the formation. Play action. Barkley looks down deep. Breaking free is the freshman. He's got it again and out of bounds. On the 3-yard line. Woods coming around. They hand it straight off. And banging toward the end zone is Mark Tyler. Touchdown. The line judge coming in. Directly behind. They scored a touchdown in this formation earlier. Now he curls it back and he's got another one. Touchdown USC. His career long. And now Khalil.
A member of the defense moved into the neutral zone, causing the offense to move. Offside.
So this to send us to overtime. Maldonado on the way, pulled it left, no good. USC upsets Oregon.
Big win, obviously, against the team that was, you beating Oregon and that during that stretch is a big deal. So that was a lot of optimism for Lane Kiffin's crew after that win.
I was shocked. I mean, maybe I shouldn't have been, but Matt Barkley was on fire. He was on fire. Right, Marquise Lee and Robert Woods, I think, was number 2. And I'll tell you something. I don't think Oregon knew what hit him. I mean, it was just an amazing display of unbelievable talent. I don't think he missed the pass the whole first half. And what I remembered about that field goal was that the first time he tried the field goal, Lane called timeout to freeze the kicker. And then on the second one, there was a false start on our part, or offsides. And so now the kicker had to think about it a second time. And I don't know, I think, something happened. And then he, pulled the kick. And it was, it was just an unbelievable moment because, Chip Kelly had played for that field goal. He had slowed down the offense, which was just going right through us. I'm sure if he kept going, he probably would have scored a touchdown. But, he slowed it down, set up the field goal, and we got lucky and he missed the field goal.
Yeah, no, so you saw it looked like it was Matt Khalil in the middle. If you remember, he was like a kick block. He blocked some kicks. And we got a clip from Matt Barkley talking about that. He talks about Khalil, putting up such a wall that maybe that's the reason why the kicker missed it. But I'll play you this clip from Matt Barkley. And he also talks about getting to lead the Trojan marching band, up on the ladder after the game. So here's his clip.
Yeah, it got kind of close at the end of that game. They had a chance to tie it, I believe, and missed a field goal. But if you look back at that tape, we had an awesome special teams unit, but Matt Khalil at the time, he was my left tackle. I think he was 6'7", 6'8". He had both his hands up right in the middle of the ball flight to where if that kicker would have been on point, it would have gotten blocked. No doubt in my mind. And he already blocked 3 or 4 kicks that year. So I think we had a little scare there at the end, but I mean, that's what made it an even more fun victory. And after we won, my family was right there near the band. My wife, who I dated at the time, she was there right behind, near the band. And so to be able to lead the band again with the sword at the end of that game, with my family there, with my wife there, and just all the emotions of that game, how it all came together as you're holding that sword. It's one of the coolest experiences. I have yet, even after winning in the NFL and winning games, nothing really compares to that overall encompassing, just conquers mentality because you feel invincible.
And Barkley had 323 yards and 4 touchdowns in that game. And obviously, he seemed to really enjoy, still to this day, being able to lead the band after the game.
Yes, he's, even after all these years, he's still a good friend. And, whenever we get to see him, we talk about these wonderful memories, and obviously there's nothing like getting a star player up on a ladder with a sword and celebrating with a Trojan family. It's a great tradition that we have with our football team.
Yeah, for sure. And you can just tell from him talking about it how important that was to him. USC finished 10-2 that season, beat UCLA 50-0. That was a pretty good one. And I think 20 players from that roster went on to play in the NFL. So a lot of talent, even though they ineligible for the bowl game because of the sanctions. But that's cool. It's a good trip down memory lane for that year. That's people don't talk about that year as much because of the sanctions, but certainly a special year.
Yes, and it seemed like these seniors were like maybe the last great recruiting class of Pete Carroll, and they all, or a lot of them, went on to become stars in the NFL, and to their credit, in spite of no bowl game, they pulled together and they had a phenomenal year. And that UCLA game is just like a blur. I mean, it was just like a blur. And I don't think you'll see another UCLA game like that where you shut them out. But they were after that Oregon game. They could have beaten the New York Jets. I mean, that team was just fired up. And the other thing, that UCLA game was their bowl game. That was their bowl game.
Yeah.
So they just took it out on the Bruins.
Yeah. No bowl game that year, so 50-0 had to suffice. That was a good way to go into the offseason. You kind of, so it's a good memory to have heading into the next season. All right, well, let's talk about, so the traditions for this week. It's going to be more about the international travel for the Trojan Marching Band. If people don't know, I mean, this is a band that's been all over the world, 19 different countries, 6 continents as USC's world ambassadors. So started in 1988. The band became a tradition of traveling internationally during the summer, usually every other year or so. And I think we'll start with the World Expos. So they were invited to Brisbane, Australia at Expo 88. I think it was Barry Spanier. So he formed the Expo City Marching Band there, and you were his mentor, and he asked you to bring the band down under.
Yes, this all got started in 88, and Barry was the director. Rick Birch was in charge of all the entertainment at the Expo. And I had met, Rick at the Olympics. He was on the Olympic staff with me. And Barry took with him a lot of my staff. Doug Isaac was a drum instructor. He took down a twirler. So there was a tremendous USC influence. And he said, if you can come up with the airfare, my guys will billet your guys and we'll feed you Australian beer. By the way, the drinking age is, 18 or 16 or something down in Australia. So anyway, the kids got all excited about this and they purchased the airfare and we went down and it was a marvelous trip. And this is one of my favorite pictures because this is the battle of the bands. You can see the song girls in the middle, but the USC band is in the far side, and then the near side is the Australian college band. And it was great because, they would play Waltzing Matilda, and we would play Stars and Stripes Forever, and we would play Tusk, and they would play whatever their top rock and roll tune is, and it was just a wonderful piece of entertainment and a great experience for my students.
I'm sure, yeah, going to Australia can't be bad. Since then, though, the band's performed at 5 more World Expos. So usually on the USA National Day, when they will feature the the USA Pavilion. They'd get the spotlight for that. But some of the dignitaries you guys have met, Marilyn Quayle, so the wife of Vice President Dan Quayle back in 92, 2005, Tommy Lasorda, famous Dodgers manager, and then in 2010, Madeline Albright and Harry Connick Jr. I got a picture of one of those World Expos, but what were those experiences like?
Well, they were wonderful because anytime, you get to represent your country. And at these expos, each country, there's like 150 countries involved, that have pavilions. And anytime you get to represent your country, and this is usually on the 4th of July, it's a big deal. And you have, dignitaries involved and entertainers, as you mentioned, and getting to perform with Harry Connick Jr. and his big band, was really terrific. And he came back after the performance and, met each guy in the band, and he brought Miss America with him. So that, that was a nice moment for the students. Yeah, it's the only drawback is on the 4th of July, it can get really hot in some places like Sevilla, and but other than that, it was a tremendous experience.
For sure. We're going to talk about the European trips that you guys have taken a little bit. So the second trip you guys took was in 1990. 19-day trip of Europe. That's pretty crazy. The Trojan Marching Band was the first American band to perform on the other side of the Iron Curtain. So I think we have a picture of you guys at the Berlin Wall.
Yes, you talk about an educational moment that we were really the first, American band to play in East Germany. And here are the kids. They got that chisel on the wall, and they got those, I guess, communist hats on. But this was a real road band. I mean, we, got in a bus and we just, like the big bands of the 40s, we went from country to country and 19 days. But the highlight really was going into East Germany and playing really at the side of the wall. So I think that's a moment that none of these kids will ever forget.
I mean, just a moment in history, obviously. Yeah. So that's crazy. It's a really neat experience that you guys got to be able to do that. Some other, European countries. So you guys went to the Eiffel Tower for the 50th anniversary of the D-Day storming in Normandy. That was in 94. The other Colosseum in Rome and Ponte Sant'Angelo and Piazza Navona. I know we talked a little off air about the Colosseum stuff in Rome. What was that experience like?
Yeah, that was really wild because you can imagine tourists all over the place, and then you see the real Trojans, marching around the outside, and people, it was like a scene from a Mel Brooks movie, if you will. What are these guys doing here? It's kind of a flashback 2,000 years. And people, you can see them maybe a little bit, but people are hanging over the top of the Colosseum to see what the commotion is. And we set up and we did a concert there. And it was, again, just a wonderful moment to return to the original Colosseum.
That was back in 2006. Then in 2012, you guys went to London, Trafalgar Square. 2018 to Blarney Castle and Dublin Castle in Ireland. That's a fun trip. And then I know you got a story about this one too. So the U.S. ambassador's home in Prague. You got to meet First Lady Laura Bush, and that was back in 2002.
Yes, that's an interesting story because I left to go to Nanjing, China, to be part of a world conference on entertainment. And, I figured, okay, I'll put my wife in charge, with my staff. And, it'll be, as much as I love Prague, it'll be fun. But as the band was warming up for their performance, the Secret Service guys for Laura Bush heard the band and they, came up to my staff and said, would you guys, like to go to the ambassador's home and play for Laura Bush? So my guys, tried to get a hold of me in Nanjing, China. That didn't work out. So they just did it because I thought it would be a great experience again for our students. And, there's my wife mugging with Laura Bush, and, she just was as charming as can be. And the ambassador's wife actually conducted the band at the concert in front of the ambassador's house, and they took the band on a tour of the house. It was gorgeous. So it just adds to the experience of being a member of the Trojan marching band.
And you missed that one. Were you kind of bummed? You're like, oh man,
I missed that one. I never forgave my wife for that.
Sorry to show that picture that a couple of times. My bad. Let's switch over to Asia. So 6 different trips to China since 2003, gone to Japan once. Back in 2004, the Trojan Marching Band performed at the Great Wall during your first tour of the country. I think I have a photo of that, but what was that experience like?
We've been to, China maybe a half a dozen times, and USC has a school in Shanghai. We recruit very heavily, from Hong Kong. We have trustees who live in Hong Kong. I think his name is Ronnie Cheng. Lives over there. Trojan family is well and alive in China. So they actually closed the wall for about 5 minutes so we could run up the steps, mug for this photograph, and play conquest. We did have a lot of security around us because they were worried about any incidents with college students, and not from the band, because the band is marching along, but from their crowd. So we had a lot of security as we marched in.
So in 2005, you guys also performed at a Japanese professional baseball game. Is it Chiba Lotte Mariners? That's near Tokyo. So Bobby Valentine, former Mets manager, was the manager then.
Right. Well, Bobby Valentine again has ties with USC. He played for Rod Dato. He knew Tommy Lasorda. He's part of that group of great baseball people. And he loved having the band there and the song girls. But I think Bobby Valentine had a great time. He loved it.
I'm sure he did. It's a little Americana coming to Japan. That's pretty cool.
Right.
But also, so in 2003, you were the first American marching band to perform at the Chinese New Year's parade in Hong Kong. And then they asked you back in the next year, 2004. And then we have a video of this one. In 2016, you were the first American performing group to play at Macau's Chinese New Year parade. So there's a bunch of Chinese in this video, but I will play it for you and then get your thoughts, Dr. Bartner.
其實佢哋係嚟自南加州大學嘅步操隊，佢哋係美國其中一個最大嘅表演團隊。03年開始去過6大洲18個國家演出，當中參加過奧運、世界盃、美式足球超級碗賽嘅表演。
咁喜歡睇足球嘅朋友咧，可能會見過佢哋啦，因為佢哋咧參與過好多大型活動嘅開幕表演嘅，包括奧林匹克運動會啦、世界抗疫萬歲。
Everyone here. Where you come from?
We're from the United States of America. We're the Spirit of Troy, the University of Southern California Trojan Marching Band.
Oh, right. Is that the first time to join this festival?
Yeah, it's the first time we've been in Macau or in this parade.
Are you enjoying yourself?
Yeah, very much so.
That looked pretty interesting. I can't even imagine what that experience was like.
Well, you know what was interesting about this, that they had representatives from a dozen, 15 or so countries. And we were the representatives from the United States. And they had this television show. It was kind of the beginning of the parade. The parade really hadn't started. So this was this television show. And they had all the dignitaries sitting, on the band's left. So each country got to perform a number. And I'm pretty sure we played Fight On, and halfway through, we swung our horns around to face the dignitaries to acknowledge them, and then brought them back out, and then started the parade. And, before the parade, there's a lot of downtime. And somewhere along the line, I decided, or someone decided, let's get the guys' horns up, and let's start warming up, and we'll give a concert. But this concert brought all the groups from the different countries together, and they're all dancing to our music. The drummers from Brazil are joining in. So it's this kind of united nation of entertainers. And I'm just, looking back and going like, God, this is wonderful. This is the way the world should be, celebrating through music. And it was just like something spontaneous that happened before the parade.
What were those little monkey guys running around, were following you guys around? Was that part of the TV show or something? Or
yeah, that was like, it might have been the year of the monkey.
Oh, okay.
And so they had.
Oh, yeah, that would make sense for New Year's. Okay, yeah.
Right.
Oh, very cool. Well, interesting stuff. I mean, that's such a neat experience for for you, for your wife, in the one case with Laura Bush, and all the members of the marching band over the years, to be able to do something like that. You would think when if you're a band alumni from 2004, you might be talking about the Bush Push, but you might be talking about your trip to China too.
Yes, yeah. I mean, there's no question that our first goal is Trojan football, but still, you create these memories that last a lifetime. And when you get band alumni together, you're right. They say, "Do you remember this trip? You remember this? You remember this?" It's like, it's more than just football.
Yeah, I mean, going to like Australia, going to the Berlin Wall, like all that stuff. Such a cool experience. So it's awesome that the Trojan Marching Band's been part of that over the years, and then you've obviously been running the show there. So great stuff again, Dr. Bartner. We only got 2 of these left. How is that possible? I don't know. Like, where did it go?
It's gone by fast. It's gone by fast, and I'm still in a shock that we're finally playing Trojan football, and we found a way to win on Saturday. So we might have to do another show just to discuss that game. It's another great memory.
That is another great memory when you weren't actually physically there, but this is a unique experience. Another one of the many that you've already had with the Trojan Marching Band over the last 5 decades. But just let everyone know. So we got a couple more left of the ARTCAST. So make sure you stay tuned for those. You can find all of the old shows on the YouTube page or the Facebook page for the Trojan Marching Band, or in podcast form. We do put a lot of graphics on the screen and show some videos. So if you can watch on video, that's probably better. But if you want to just listen to what we say, sometimes refer to a picture and you can't see it, but you can also listen to it on the podcast. And also, the Trojan Marching Band will be performing again at halftime for USC Arizona. So that's a 12:30 kickoff local time, 1:30 Mountain. So you can go to the youtube.com/USCTMB and check it out there. So hopefully a lot of people end up watching you guys at halftime, Dr. Bartner.
Yes, it was very well received, and this week's show the music was selected by our sophomore class, and of course, they're doing their favorites: Heartbreaker, Kids Aren't All Right, Lady Gaga. They're just picking the favorites. So it should be a fun show.
All right. Well, Dr. Bartner, thanks again. And we'll be back next week and the next 2 weeks. And then that's our 12-part series is done. But it was a great show. Thanks for coming on.
Well, thank you, Ryan. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in every week. And beat the Wildcats.
Fight on, everybody.